X-Men. Get it.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Zach. And Adam, guess what?
What?
We're going to talk about some Fantastic Four and some Doctor Doom and some other stuff, but we're not alone.
Oh, good. Hyperstorm must be here.
Hyperstorm's not here. But
not just Storm, Hyperstorm.
I really hope Hyperstorm is nowhere near us. And we actually have a friend of the show who's rejoining us.
Hi.
Yeah, everyone, you know her, you love her. It's Stephanie Burt. Stephanie, how you doing today?
Really happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. This is exciting. I know you and I and Adam have gotten to chat a lot more during the quarantines, which we are still in.
Yes.
Which has been the one benefit of this horrible tragedy that we are all living through, is getting to hang out with people more. And I know we've been really excited about this episode for a while. It's an episode that one of our Patreon supporters, who happens to be on this call, did request. So I know it's something that you have been excited. It is all your fault, Stephanie. All your fault. But I know you're excited to talk about it. We're excited to talk about it too. What story did you request for us to chat about?
Fantastic Four versus the X-Men, the 1987 4-issue miniseries.
Good choice.
This one's written by Chris Claremont, arts by Johnny Boggs himself, John Bogdanove. Tommy Orris does the letters on them, and they are choice.
Yes. We should credit. I actually read this in black and white, so I'm not going to talk about the colors. We should credit the colorist.
We should credit colorists, and I should really have that open. Adam, who colored this one? Was this Glynis Oliver?
Glynis
Oliver.
Yes, and we should also credit the true all-star of this miniseries, inker extraordinary Terry Austin. Because I did a double take when I reread this, and I was like, wait a minute, is this the same John Bogdanove that I absolutely despise from Extinction Agenda? Because
Johnny Boggs is good, actually. Hold on. I love Johnny Boggs.
He's
amazing.
Here.
But like Terry Austin, inker of Paul Smith, inker of Art Adams, like he kills it here.
This is the entire Dark Phoenix saga team except for John Byrne.
Yeah. It is. So kind of better,
in as much as the combat scenes are not very important, it's really important that none of the women in here look like sex objects, and drawing children so they look like children is absolutely essential.
Johnny Boggs got that down.
Exactly.
Got that down. Big time.
Exactly. This is the dream team for this story.
Now, before we get too deep into the story, we do want to throw a content warning up there.
Yes, we do.
There's going to be some discussion of suicide ideation in this, and if that's not something that you need in your life, maybe skip ahead 20 minutes or catch us on the next episode.
This is a story that's partly about suicidal ideation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it handles it really well, but if it's not something you want to hear any discussion of right now, which some people won't, this may not be the episode for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because this story takes place directly after the Mutant Massacre. Kitty has been basically made, what would we call it, guys? Discorporeal? I mean...
She is gradually discorporating. She can't stop her phasing power, which is gradually sending her molecules farther and farther apart. And if somebody doesn't figure out how to reverse that, she is going to die.
So cue the Fantastic Four. Who's going to save the day? Reed Richards. Oh, wait, maybe not Reed Richards. Maybe Dr. Doom. That was a good little echo you guys had going on.
I like Dr. Doom. Look, Dr. Doom is an evil mad scientist / wizard / tyrant. He's also kind of great.
Yeah. And his greatness comes through in this story, even though he's kind of a supporting character.
He is.
And really, the star of our show here is a character that I feel like I trashed recently. The last time we had him on, when we were talking about his little Franklin Richards steals hearts and minds here.
Saves. I would say saves hearts and minds.
Yeah.
And yet, it's sort of not a story about him. It's a story about Reed and Kitty.
Absolutely. Though I'd say the emotional beats of this story really land well for Kitty, where the plot driving parts come from Reed and what he finds in the Baxter building, which is a journal of his that essentially says that Reed Richards planned for the Fantastic Four to become the Fantastic Four and turn his best friend into a rock man. Who Ben Grimm's not happy about that, as he is wont to do.
No one's happy about it. Sue's not happy about it.
Yeah. Are we in plot summary land?
Yeah. Let's do it. Spoilers galore.
We got his plot summary. So Franklin, the whole thing starts with Franklin having a dream that this journal is gonna just destroy the Fantastic Four, and Franklin freaks out. And
he's like 4 at the time.
Let's four.
Fair. He's a small boy.
He is small. So Kitty is discorporating, and Franklin had this dream of this journal. And Reed has tech that might help Kitty not discorporate. And the X-Men say, hey, will you please come to Muir Island and help us incorporate Kitty? So Reed takes the FF minus Sue and Franklin plus She-Hulk to Muir Island. And they get there, and Reed looks at Kitty and is like, I've done the examination. This isn't going to work. I'm going to go home and take my tech. And the X-Men say, no, we don't care about your clinical trials. We don't care about your science and your evidence. We think this might work. You got to stay in and help. And they fight. But
Wolverine basically like, get your butt in there and make this work, or I'm stabbing you in the face. Not exactly the best motivator, but
Storm.
It's the only motivation Wolverine really has in him. It's all he knows how to do is to threaten people to get what he wants.
He is the best there is at that.
It's true.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably one of the weaker points of the story, is that the quote unquote fight scenes are a little contrived, right?
The fight scenes are so silly that the entire 4-issue miniseries could have taken place without a fight, except and there's 2 rules, and you can see the rules creaking into place in here. One rule is every Marvel comic has to have a fight scene. The other rule is every Marvel comic could be someone's first.
Yes.
So you gotta explain people's backstories.
Yeah, I mean, and we get these absolutely bizarre little interludes, like Rogue being attacked by Doom bots after going shopping, or the X-Men going on a random training mission in the forests of Latveria. Like this, and what's shocking is it is a Chris Claremont story, but it is a Fantastic Four story much more than it is an X-Men story.
So that is true, and Claremont gets the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And I think Claremont wants to tell a story about people trying to be good parents in a way that is a lot more quote unquote normal than any kind of parent situation you'd see for the X-Men. Because X-Men comics are all about chosen family and like finding your people and saying no one I grew up with gets me. And Fantastic Four comics are all about birth family, the people you're stuck with.
Right.
And that contrast drives this whole comic. But we got to tell our faithful listeners what happens first, right?
We do, because there's been a lot of mention about Latveria and Doombots, and I'm not sure we brought those up yet.
Well, we haven't gotten there. So there's a fisherman. While the FF and the X-Men are fighting over whether Reed's going to use his tech, the other Muir Island crew have rescued a fisherman who turns out to be a Doombot and spreads his cape and says, hey, I'm a Doombot. You want to rescue Kitty? Dr. Doom has the tech. Come to Latveria.
So they do.
And the rest of the FF, they go back to New York and discover what's in Reed's journal, which is exactly what Zach said. And they say, man, can we trust Reed, or has he been a jerk who's been manipulating us all along?
Both can be true. You can't trust him, and Reed Richards can still be a jerk.
Oh, both are true. Not as much as a jerk as Professor Xavier, though.
Look, they're close. They ain't too far off from each other, but I digress.
It's true. It's true, as we do. So the FF wander around New York trying to figure out if they're still a team, if they're still a family, they ever trust Reed again, given what's in this journal. In the meantime, the X-Men have gone to Latveria to take advantage of Doom Tech, but Kitty's really wondering whether it's even worth it, because she has been such a cause for adults to fight over her, and it's so much effort has gone into trying to keep her alive, and she just feels like she's a huge burden to everybody, and maybe she's going to die anyway, so maybe she should just let herself discorporate and die faster than she has to. And it is incredibly forking heartbreaking. This is some of the most emotionally wrenching sets of panels right here in Fantastic Four versus the X-Men #3 that I've ever seen in an X comic. And she almost does it. And the thing that prevents her from ending her own life is that Franklin, who astral projects, shows up and says, Kitty, please stick around. I'm a small, cute child, and I need you, and I need you here. And that persuades Kitty not to literally step off a ledge high on a castle and sort of vanish into air. That is the emotional climax of the whole series right there.
I would definitely say that scene in Fantastic Four versus X-Men #3 is far and away the best thing in the series and better than most stuff Claremont wrote. Like that works. There's a lot of things that I'll nitpick about this series that I don't think run as well as they should from a plot standpoint. But that big emotional beat with Kitty and Franklin, Claremont and Johnny Boggs, they knock this one out of the park.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's only gotten more powerful since it was published, right? Because this is about finding someone you'd never find if you weren't a mutant.
Right.
And having a situation that's making you think maybe everybody else would be better if I weren't alive because of my mutant power. And somebody who Kitty has found, across the freaking Atlantic, right?
Right.
Like they're not even on the same continent, let alone of the same generation or with the same concerns or the same background, shows up and says, hey, would you please stick around for me? And it works. And I mean, honestly, this is an X-Men podcast. Raise your hand if no one you know has been pulled back from some sort of brink or other by somebody they met online. Right?
Right.
After Kitty decides to stick around for Astral Projector Franklin, and Longshot discovers Snow.
He does discover Snow. It's very cute.
And nobody asks why Rogue is wearing a t-shirt that makes her seem like she's dressed up as the Flash. Like, does anyone know?
It's fashion, baby.
Yeah. Doom decides to use his tech. Reed decides he's going to take his team, who have decided to stick with him, and come back to Latveria and try to help.
Mm-hmm.
They show up, and the X-Men, especially Magneto, see the Fantastic Car showing up and conclude that the Fantastic Car has showed up to try to prevent Doom from helping Kitty instead of to help Doom help Kitty.
Right.
So they have a contrived fight. And again, Franklin stops them from fighting. Reed shows up. And this is some neat psychological novel stuff. Doom insists that Reed let Psylocke open Reed's mind to Sue so Sue can find out whether or not Reed really wrote the journal. Sue concludes, and Reed concludes, that there is no need for that, because if Reed ever was the kind of jerk who wrote the journal, he's a much better dad now and a much better person now, and he'll be a good dad and a good partner, and he wouldn't deceive her like that now. So who cares if he wrote the journal? Sue figures out that Doom probably planted the journal himself.
I love that Doom forgot about this.
he's got so many schemes out there. What's one more scheme?
Like, oh yeah, I did that. Oh man, should have capitalized on this one. Really, that's Doom's fault.
Yeah. But only after realizing that they got to trust one another does Reed get the self-confidence back that allows him to collaborate with Doom to build the tech to eventually, gradually save Kitty so that she can hang out in Weir Island, not be in Fall of the Mutants, and go join Excalibur.
Right.
And then Kitty teaches Franklin to socially distanced waltz.
Yeah, it's the story has a lot of weird beats, some contrived moments, some good character moments. Like the Kitty Franklin stuff's obviously great. I love the stuff when the Thing goes to his bar on Yancey Street.
I was gonna say the Thing in the bar is a great scene. There's a lot of like physical comedy in this, you know, where we get these little interactions between characters or characters on their own. And it's sold very, very well by the artwork. So,
that's one of the things John Bogdanove is great at in anything he does. He has a very good sense of slapstick and comedic timing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this is a good Doom too. Like Claremont gets Doom. He's somebody he's evil, but he wants to show that he's better than Reed. He wants respect. He keeps his promises. He's actually a pretty good ruler of Latveria, if you don't mind the total lack of civil liberties.
Yeah. I mean, this is as good of a leader as Doom should be allowed to be.
Yeah.
It's like he's still a fascist dictator of an Eastern European country, and none of that is working in his favor. But he's okay if you take away the part where like he's a demon sorcerer also.
Yeah, there's also this whole thing going on, Reed and Magneto and Doom, and I wish Rogue had been part of this, but at this point in continuity, everybody forgets that Rogue started as a villain. What's a reformed villain? How do you know if somebody's reformed? And there's kind of a Magneto's the real thing reformed villain. Doom is not really reformed, but we can use the tech. Reed hasn't been evil for at least a couple of months.
Reed's more, I don't want to say not evil because I don't think I'm the judge of morality that should be making these decisions. Reed is more thoughtless than malicious.
Oh yeah. Well, he's more ambitious than malicious. Reed's thing is, and this is like everybody talks about how this is a Kitty story, which it absolutely is, and that's what makes it, what do we say now, relatable?
Mm-hmm.
If there's stuff you want to do in the world, and you also have small humans in your life, like this is relatable from a Reed point of view, because it's like, how much time do I spend on my special projects? How much time do I spend on my kids' bedtimes?
I mean, the series does start with Franklin having the dream, trying to interrupt Reed in his lab, and Reed basically saying like, "Hey, Sue, get this kid out of here."
Sue, I'm very busy with science.
Yeah, there's this heartwarming scene between Sue and Franklin, but at the same time, like Reed is basically like, "Get out of here, you kid!" Yeah. And it's only later I don't think we mentioned the saggy baggy elephant yet.
Well, because the saggy baggy elephant is the fulcrum on which this entire series turns itself.
Yeah.
Which is a real storybook. It's not made up for
really?
This particular story.
Really?
As far as I know,
the running joke is that Reed tells the story using his stretchy powers.
Right.
Yes.
So when somebody else tells it, it's not as good.
Which I can believe, because Franklin tries to tell it to Kitty, and she's like, one, there's a 4-year-old trying to tell me a story, and that can often be cute, and very rarely is it coherent.
Narratively successful, yeah. So we got to talk one thing about the way that parenthood happens in the story. Is that this is a story about like how to deal with suicidal ideation if you are a mutant teen, and it's a story about how to be a good dad, but it's a story about how to be a good dad, really. And Claremont is so good when he's sort of paying attention to it. That I was a little disappointed by the idea that, of course, Sue puts the kids first because she's a mom, and Reed is a dad, and so he's the one who has to learn to put the kids first. And that's not wrong about how American families that have one mom and one dad are expected to behave. But it's kind of predictable, you know?
It is. I would think part of that is just part of that's lingering repercussions of the fact that Stan Lee, bless his soul, was very bad at writing women.
Yes.
And part of that is, I think Claremont understands what Doom wants, what Reed wants, and what Ben want. He doesn't have as good of a grasp on Storm or Johnny in this series. Like, Johnny's mad.
You mean Sewer Johnny? You mean Sewer Johnny?
You mean
Sewer Johnny? Excuse me. Yeah, Sue Storm. The Storms in general. I can save this. I can make myself not look like a fool.
You're good. You're good.
But no, I definitely hear you there. Sue does explode all of her clothes off at once, which is a very Claremont thing to do.
Well, she also, sure. I mean,
she also
multiple clothes.
Tears Rogue's clothes off at one point too.
Yeah. Sue also the end of the story, and it's like Claremont is trying. Claremont is trying to make it feminist, and he's limited by the characters he's inherited, which is very like that's the story of a lot of 80s comics. But at the end, where Sue realizes what's going on. Just before they go home, she says to Dr. Doom, "You do know that I could kill you, that I'm the most powerful." Because Jean's not in the story. I am the most powerful superhero in this castle in Latveria, whatever.
Yeah,
and
I could kill you. Storm doesn't have her powers right now. That's her. That's all.
I could kill you with my force fields, but I'm not you, so I'm not going to go home and suck it. And also, thank you for healing Kitty, because thank you.
Right.
Yeah. It's a great way to wrap things up.
Yeah. Yes.
We've talked about this a lot. This is a fun story, and we have a lot of stories on this list. In fact, we have 369 stories on this list that we rank from all their X-Men stories of all time. The number one story is the Dark Phoenix Saga. Number 100 is Uncanny X-Men Acts of Vengeance, which is the time that Psylocke got switched into a different body, but it has that real pretty Jim Lee art, and is not the time that Magneto threw Red Skull into a hole. That's one spot below. Number 200 is I, Magneto, the time where Magneto sees Kitty almost die, and it's like, oh, I should stop being evil now. And he gets there eventually. Number 300 is New Mutants Volume 3, 1-4, The Return of the Legion. And 369 is the Draco. Here's what I'm going to throw out as a starting point for this. Number 99 is another John Bogdanov story with little Moppets that I love. It's Exterminators from Inferno. I think this is better than Exterminators.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I do too. I was also looking as just a comparison note. I think I'm more of a fan of Excalibur Mojo Mayhem, which is also a Kitty story to a certain extent. That's at 85.
I would say that Mojo Mayhem has better art in that. I mean, that's got some real Choice Art Adams stuff on it. I don't think Mojo Mayhem tells as compelling of a story as this, which I think this is where, like, that Kitty Franklin scene's pretty good.
This is a hell of a story. And the FF story, like the Reed story, and by the end, it's Sue's story. Those are for real stories. There's multiple. There's a lot going on in here.
Where I'm looking I think I'm looking a bit higher on this.
Thank you.
I'm trying. So at 54 is Storm and Ileana Magic, and I think that is better than this.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I think Storm and Ileana Magic it works on a different level than this one. A bit lower on the list, 66 is X Factor Examinations, which is the Peter Allen David story where they all go to a shrink.
And I don't know if I would go that low. Like I know I was talking about Mojo Mayhem as a ceiling, but if Storm and Ileana is our ceiling, right below that is Alan Davis's Return to Excalibur, and I think that's better. But I could be convinced that this is better than Jeff Johns' Morlocks.
Jeff Johns' Morlocks is at 56. X Factor Volume 2, the cop story, is at 57. See, X-Men Season 1 is at 58, and I think this is better than X-Men Season 1. I think it has a lot of the same challenges that Season 1 has in terms of having a incredibly tight plot, because we're at the top part of this list right now.
Yeah, we're in the right area. I am convinced this is better than X-Men Red.
I would agree.
Anywhere in between Storm and Liana Magic and X-Men Red, I am completely signed on to.
Here's what I think this is better than X Factor Volume 2, which is a forgotten series that I like, but I think this being like about the X-Men actually probably does a little bit more in its favor. Adam, you're a bigger fan of Morlocks than me, so I'm going to leave it to you. Do you think this is better or worse than Morlocks 1 through 4?
You know, if you had asked me before I reread it, I probably would have put it much lower, but I think it rereads very, very well. And I found it very enjoyable this time. So I would put it above Morlocks and below Alan Davis's return to Excalibur. So that would make it our new 56.
That would make it our new number 56. A very good showing for this.
Excellent showing.
All right. Yay.
All right. So obviously, this is not the only time that the Fantastic Four have teamed up and or tangled with the X-Men. Where are we headed next, Zach?
We're going to head to the Bermuda Triangle. You know that place? It's a triangle in the Bermuda region.
Is it triangular?
I mean, roughly. If you would ask a mathematician, they'd say, I mean, we could make it there.
What if you ask Lee Forrester?
Lee Forrester would say, "What are you talking about? Get off my boat. I'm She-Ra, the killer, whatever from this. This is Savage Land time, kind of.
Sort of
close. It's close. It gets close to the Savage Land, but not being there. This is X-Men Volume 3, number 16 through 19, Betrayal in the Bermuda Triangle. This was written by Victor Glesher with pencils by Jorge Molina and one fill-in issue by Makiro Perfideci, colors by Guru EFX. Joe Caramanga does himself some letters on this one. This one's weird. I picked this one because all I remembered about it is that the X-Men get a distress beacon from Lee Forrester, and because X-Men Volume 3 was like a team-up book in a weird way, they teamed up with the FF, which is the Hickman era FF. So Dr. Doom's there, and also Spider-Man's there because Johnny's dead for a little bit.
Well, Spider-Man doesn't go on the mission. He is hanging out with the what are they called? The Future Foundation. We get a brief look at Artie and Leech, which is fun. But then we're off to this alternate dimension, which is filled with dinosaurs and alien species, and it's a jungle adventure.
It's a big, generic, pulpy sci-fi story in all of the good and bad ways.
Yep. Yeah.
It's
fine.
It's
there's the good aliens and there's the bad aliens.
And they've got to get a thing. They've got to get a thing.
There's a MacGuffin.
The thing. They have the thing.
They do have the thing.
The orb.
Yeah.
No, the thing is not an orb. He's an orange brick man.
No. You know what I mean. But yeah, Lee has teamed up with Skull the Slayer, Scully, who she's been abandoned in this dimension. And it turns out there's an entire very judgmenty war going on over here in this dimension. And the X-Men and the Fantastic Four have to team up. Dr. Doom has been scheming the entire time, as he always does, to think about 12 steps ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
And they eventually beat this terrible sort of tree.
Scorpius Prime.
Yeah, he kind of looks like Abomination from the Hulk, but he's got a robot arm and a tree arm. And
he's got a tree. He looks like he got his arm stuck in Groot. And when like Rocket pulled him out of Groot, some Groot came with him.
He's very much like baby's first alien design.
They all are.
This is an incredibly generic world. I can't tell you anything about the world building in it because it's done poorly. The X-Men get split up into different groups where they team up with different members of the FF. There's some weird stuff in here. Emma Frost is not written well. She's mad that Cyclops had a girlfriend once that wasn't her.
Yeah, and insults her. Like, this is the kind of Emma writing that any modern Emma, any like post Gen X, really, any modern Emma would read that and say, I don't know who that woman is with all that white and all the cat. Like, this Emma doesn't even pass the Bechdel test. This is possibly the only time anyone's ever written an Emma who does not pass the Bechdel test.
Yeah, all she cares about is Scott and like their relationship, and it's
this
isn't a story about their relationship. This is just a story about her being jealous.
It's not even about that. It's like, I mean, what is it about?
The story itself?
I mean, like, fun, pulpy, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, that's it.
But there's no, like, there's a reason why Victor Gischler is not, like, known as one of the great, like, emotional masterminds of X comics. Like,
well, that's because his run started with Curse of the Mutants and then went down from there.
Harsh. I mean, I'll give him some credit. Pixie has some really great presence in this particular arc. I do like how she's portrayed and gets some really Pixie. Great. Yeah, she gets
Pixie
some really
the
great
thing hangout. It's what you want from that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. There's good Pixie. Like, Pixie gets stuff to do. It's not especially individual, but it's fun and it's heroic, and I love the character. I just want the best for her. The art team does
very mixed.
The people don't look great, but in terms of drawing this world, like, they were told to do something boring by the writing, and they made it look interesting.
Okay, that's fair.
Like, I like the way it looks.
Yeah,
and, I mean, the banter, like, at the Emma banter is garbage, but some of the other banter is pretty good, right? I want an energy hammer because Lee Forrester has this thing that looks like Mjolnir, except like quadruple size.
Right, it's a very large hammer.
Yeah, and Lee says you can add it to your Amazon wish list if we live. And there's this like running joke about whether Ben knows what a fastball special is. Like, there's jokes, and some of the jokes are good.
Dr. Nemesis thinking he's better than Dr. Doom and Reed Richards combined.
I love that. That's great.
He's love
like,
it,
why
but
are you double checking my calculations? I already know they're correct.
Yeah.
It's also weaker Dr. Nemesis banter. Like, this is low tier Dr. Nemesis banter.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
But that's a high bar, to be fair.
That's exactly right. Because like, Dr. Nemesis is important in the X-Men at a time when the like people who are good at banter are writing it.
Right.
And this isn't. And can I say one more thing that kind of?
You can say like 5 more things if you want. We're not counting.
I kind of want to get to Olga and Laura, but and this was fun. It's a fun, pulpy SF adventure. It has no consequences at all for anyone. And this Doctor Doom thinks like Doctor Doom, but he doesn't talk like Doctor Doom.
No, which is especially apparent if you were to read this when it was coming out alongside the Jonathan Hickman FF run, where it may have some faults, but also Jonathan Hickman knows how to write some Doctor Doom.
Yeah. It doesn't pair well with that. It feels out of character. I think this may have even been more successful if it had just been more of a jungle adventure. If we had found out that Lee had ended up just in the Savage Land and we needed to go like on an adventure there and there's dinosaurs or whatever, but
because at least that world's already built. Like, we've accepted that.
Right. Yeah. There would be more of an excuse for her being dressed like Sheena the She-Devil, and like, does she need leopard skin bikini here. I don't know.
This is some white savior nonsense.
Yes.
The more I look at, Lee decides that she's going to stay with the Kadak, who are the low tech, like First Peoples aliens, as opposed to the like creepy green bad guy aliens,
high tech invader aliens.
Right. Lee's gonna stay with the low tech aliens to help lead their civilization because they need a white girl from Earth.
I guess.
Yeah. She doesn't get to keep her ship. This is not.
It is a little weird, right?
It's
like
not
you
good.
kind of, after all of this, like the whole point of the story is let's go and visit Lee in an alternate dimension. Lee ends up staying in that dimension. And Zach, you would know better than I. Have we seen Lee since?
Lee Forrester is still stuck in that alternate dimension.
That's not
being a boat captain like she should be. I think Lee Forrester is one of the most interesting X-Men characters, like as far as minor characters of all time. I think she's great. She has her own agency. She is portrayed often as the girlfriend for a lot of characters, but also her job is not to be the girlfriend. She's like, I got my own stuff going on over here. If you want to date me, that's cool. But I got to run a shipping company.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what she should be doing. I do like the kernel of Scott feels like he's got to go rescue his ex. Mm-hmm. It turns out that his ex doesn't want to be rescued and is just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that works.
And along the way, they get into like a pulpy SF plot, but do better.
Yeah.
That's the moral of the story. Just do better, everyone.
I mean, the other missed opportunity is they really don't get into Lee and Eric at all. You know, like it gets
her other ex-boyfriend's here too.
Right. It gets teased, but it doesn't get explored at all. And
I didn't really like the Lee and Eric. You know what would have been fun? Because this is
Cable was around.
Story. What?
Cable was around
her other ex-boyfriend?
No.
We don't need to speak of that.
I have never been able to follow stories about Cable. I'm sorry. It's just like it's my fault. It's not Cable's fault.
He's good. I love him. But continue.
So if I have maybe the fortune or the misfortune of being Victor Gisler's editor on this, and he turns in a script, I'm gonna be like, why don't you just make Emma do everything Doom does?
That would be good,
a much better story with fewer characters if all of the double and triple crossing were what Emma does.
Sure. Easily.
I think that would work a lot better. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it's not 2010 and we can't go until, I don't know. I'm going to guess Nick Lowe. I'm just going to check right now because I don't know. Yep. Going to go tell Nick Lowe or associate editor Daniel Ketchum or assistant editor friend of the show Jordan D. White. Hey, let's change this.
I'm thinking about Jordan D. White, whose powers we are now familiar with and whom we hold in great respect. Seeing this roll off the like pulp SF filler assembly line, and like maybe Jordan's looking at how Emma's used in the story and just saying, do better.
I think we are at a good spot to rank this thing. I am looking down near 192, which is the Neil Adams Savage Land arc of 60 to 63.
The Neil Adams Savage Land is better than that. That has Magneto going, yes, you've never actually seen my hair before. I am Magneto.
I think it goes
Adams art.
I think it goes lower than that. I just, I'm trying to draw a line here somewhere.
Where do we have Judgment War?
Oh, Judgment War is quite low.
That's at okay. So that's at 298 right now. And I don't know how I feel about this compared to Judgment War. Judgment War's very long. Remember, Adam?
Yeah, at least
like 11 issues long.
Yeah. I think this is better just, it has a beginning, a middle, and end as opposed to like, let's say 295, the Muir Island saga. Well, Curse of the Mutants is right there at 296. Is this better or worse than that?
Curse of the Mutants is better.
All right, then
Curse of the Mutants is better. Curse of the Mutants you can at least read as like he wasn't taking it seriously, which he was, which makes the unintentional parts good.
We're definitely in the right part of the list because like at 303 we have Search for Cyclops. I think this is better than that. It's not a particularly exciting story, but it's not that.
Just like Yeah, I'm looking at this for the stories that I know well.
Right.
And all I'm going to say is this definitely belongs below Dinosaur Rachel.
Where's Dinosaur Rachel? Where did we put Dino Rachel?
270s.
Oh yeah, this will be below Dino Rachel.
Yeah, definitely.
This will be below Dino Rachel.
We're good.
That story's got some issues, but at least a little fun.
It's a lot. There's a lot to like. Yeah,
I think I'm going to weigh in with Judgment War and say that Judgment War is better. I think we get better world building in Judgment War, even if it's dull.
I think at 300 right now, NYX No Way Home.
Yeah.
I think that one, NYX No Way Home, at least tries to be a more interesting story and tries to tell something, even if in execution it doesn't get all the way there.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably better than Search for Cyclops. Is it better or worse than the Return of the Legion story? I think it's lower than that. And probably lower than that Alpha Flight story.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, so this is going to be our new 303, edging in just ahead of Search for Cyclops.
This will be 303, Betrayal in the Bermuda Triangle.
It's got fun parts, but yeah.
It's not good, though. That's the problem.
No, it's not.
We got a better ender, though. We just got one more.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
It's good.
This is number 33 to 35 of this series. It's How It Ended. Written by Tommy Taylor, with pencils by Ramon Rosanos. It's all new Wolverine, old woman Laura.
Mm-hmm.
Laura's old now. She's Queen of Madripoor and she's old.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is, as the last page of the whole story says, a world where the heroes won.
It's the inverse of the idea of Old Man Logan, which is, I really love it in concept. I think that's an incredibly interesting thing to look at. And it's oddly rare in superhero comics that you get an alternate future where things are like generally pretty chill.
Yeah. Yeah. And an alternate near future, right? There's like Legion of Superhero stuff. There's like far future, United Federation of Planets, whatever, galactic peace. But like something where the world gets better from the present in the lifetime of the people we know and love. That is rare.
I love this story. I love it. I mean, it's basically, who runs the world, girls. Like, it is from top to bottom, a really great all-female team up. Whether we're talking about Kamala Khan as president of the United States, and we're going to go on this like revenge mission to go after Dr. Doom, which is, as they describe it, kind of like the last blight upon the world or the universe. And it's all caused because despite Gabby having taken over as Wolverine, old man Laura is apparently dying.
Yeah. Being a clone has its downsides, and those downsides are that her cells are breaking.
No, she's not dying because she's a clone. She specifically says Gabby's going to be fine.
Yes.
Gabby's going to either be immortal or have a normal lifespan. Her particular cloning did a number on her chromosomes.
Yes, and she's not looking forward to it, but she has one thing on her bucket list, and that's that one of her sisters, Baloney, has been captured by
Bologna. Not Bologna.
Not Bologna.
Bologna. Bolognese sauce.
Laura's sister Baloney.
Now that I say that, I've never had to say her name out loud.
She's Bologna. She's the goddess of war. She's not
She's a sandwich component.
Northern Italy, known for its communist politics and its red sauce and its antique university.
Oh yeah, I don't pay attention to the Roman gods. Those guys are the ripoffs.
Well, if you want to rip offs, we may have to talk about Orphan Black at some point. I try not to bring up Orphan Black when I'm discussing the Tom Taylor All New Wolverine, but
it's influenced.
It is
for sure. It's right there. But this is a heck of a team up, guys. I mean, we have a stacked team. We have Wolverine. We have Maria Hill looking like she just is ready to kill anything. It's great.
That's just how Maria Hill normally looks. I don't know how to break that to you.
I know, but she's like angry. even more angry and pissed off, and it's great. And then as a surprise, we also get Captain Marvel. We also get Kate Bishop. And we also get inside of a bullet.
Yeah.
We get the Wasp. This is a great team.
It's a nice team. What I question is how well they're utilized, because this is a 3-issue series and Taylor has to introduce a world and resolve these long lingering plots about, what's going to happen with Laura, and essentially like give his final summary on his entire take on the character, which truly is the defining take on the character.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah, he has to do that in an alternate reality with all these other characters that may have had appearances in his run, but have not been like supporting cast members. Has to do all that and give a clean end to it. I think that's a lot to juggle, and I don't think it's done poorly, but I don't think it's as successful as the best parts of this run are.
Oh, no question. This was so much fun when it was coming out, and like everybody loves it, and people love that run in general. And
it's a good run.
It's a good run. Reading this rereading this the same day I was rereading FFVX. For a while, I thought, "Wow, this is really like just lesser in caliber. It's just not the same level." He's just got so many fewer words, frankly, as well as fewer pages to work with. There's just less character development. There's kind of less of everything. And then I thought, this is so much more streamlined. Maybe the way to read it isn't the way that you read some of the other, like some of the best Tom Taylor All New Wolverine stories. Like the one, the first arc, or the one where they get rid of the trigger scent. It's certainly not the way you read like the intricate psychological best Claremont comics. It's a fable, and it's a fable with a moral. And the moral of the fable is, if you want nothing to change and you want immortality for yourself, you're the bad guy. And if you're willing to have things change and work together with your friends and give up who you are for them when they need you, then you're the good guy. Because it's really schematic. Doom's thing is that he doesn't want anything to change ever. He tricked Laura into showing up in Latveria so that he could steal Laura's body, but she like double tricks him and ends up killing him. And Laura is rewarded with Gabby saying, "We're not going to let you die. We're going to look for the cure. We want you to stick around in this world where the heroes won." But Laura just keeps on being a change agent, and she's unselfish. And Doom wants nothing to change, and that's what makes him evil. That's also what makes him boring, because
in this one,
this is he's an extremely boring antagonist.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot to do. I mean, like if you were going to, I think one of the deficits that we're kind of hinting at is that the brevity of this story may actually be to its deterrent, but it would be cool to see a little bit more of like the Doom scheming that makes it still this like terrible thing that still exists on Earth, as opposed to what it has been in the past in Marvel, which is kind of like a peculiarity, if you will, that should be left alone. But we do get this indication that this Doom war has happened in the future very, very quickly. So there are things that you could plumb a little bit more to get a more fleshed out story. But you're right. It has to kind of streamline itself towards its end.
Even within 3 issues, and he's only got 3 issues, it looks very cartoony. It's almost like a really good animation. There's very little use of the kind of things in another era you would have seen, like giant text boxes or like thought bubbles. There's just not a lot of words to play with here to build the world that we're seeing.
See, I'm okay with the streamlined quality of it. I really like the art, but I will agree it's a little more static than we would have seen in other arcs in the series for sure.
Here's
the
what
art is fine. The art is fine, but it's not especially suited to compressed science fictional world building. Think about the Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, where you've got an artist who really knows how to do a science fiction world. And
I hate the art in that book.
Yeah, you're crazy though. You're
really,
Adam. You are off your rocker.
It's garbage.
No, it's not. It's good, bud. It's good.
It looks terrible.
We did this on
Everybody's ugly.
Yes, they are. It's the bad future. Everyone is ugly. I agree with you, but that's a feature, not a bug.
I can't look at that book.
Did we talk about this on the show? I honestly don't remember.
Did. We don't have to talk about this again. We don't have to relitigate it.
But I'm sorry. This kind of cartoony. This is the kind of cartoony art that would not be out of place in like Moon Girl, which is a book that I really like. But it's not well suited to deep science fictional world building.
What I would say about this book is that I don't dislike it, but
I like it too.
I don't think there is anything in these 3 issues that Tom Taylor and others didn't do better in the previous 32 issues of this run. I think it has a message, but it's something that I think it's something that was already hit on, and it feels more like a victory lap of everything.
That's beautifully put.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I also think there's a very sad irony. I mean, I'm rereading this on Unlimited that the very last line of the book is now you get to be something better, and the page flip is to the cover of Mariko Tamaki's X-23, which, hey, whatever. But there's an irony to all new Wolverine having climbed to this height, and then you get to be something better. You get to go back to being X-23. That's an aside. It has nothing to do with the story itself.
Book's fault. That's not this book's fault. Yeah. We cannot hold it against it.
No, we cannot.
But not his fault either.
Little bit of irony there.
They have since fixed it. They did throw Laura into a hole for 20 billion years, but she's going to come back as a goddess or something. So
I can't wait. Whenever that pays off, it's going to be so cool.
It's going to be very good.
Yeah. So I enjoy this, but I agree it has its weaknesses, and I agree it's not the strongest of what we've seen Tom do with the character. So we have other all new Wolverine on this list, do we not?
We do. We have number 7, which is the all new Wolverine and Squirrel Girl story, which is at 108. And then we have the all new Wolverine annual, which is the Spider-Gwen story at 115. And I think both of those are better than this.
Oh, I would agree. At 121, we have the Wolverine sort of anime manga miniseries Snicked. I like that better than this as well.
How do you feel about here's something? I'm just scrolling down the list.
Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. X 1 through 5, Love and Rogue, is at 156.
Mm-hmm.
That's the spacey one.
Yeah.
I think this is close to that. Okay, actually, no, this isn't better than Madripoor Nights, which is just a couple of spots down at 158. I think this is better than 163, which is the story where the Excalibur story where they go to the alternate dimension that's run by dinosaurs, Excaliburs.
So that is the Rachel dinosaur.
No,
story.
That's not. That's the one where this story is just told of this other universe of Excalibur.
Right. Yes.
And then Excalibur was taking a nap the whole time.
Yep. Sorry.
How do you feel about this compared to Kitty Pryde and Wolverine, the miniseries?
Which I believe
I would.
Our guest was on this last episode, correct?
Hi.
On the episode we talked about
every time I look forward to coming on the show again and again over the years, and every time you're going to ask me about Kitty Pryde and Wolverine.
I'm going to try.
I think it's going to be a minority opinion among X fans, but I think that Kitty Pryde and Wolverine is a little better. It's more ambitious. It's got more obvious flaws, but it does more.
I would actually agree.
I would agree. I would agree.
I do think this is better than the Uncanny X-Force spin-off Age of Apocalypse.
Yes.
I think this is better than the first arc of that. So I think that fits this in as our new 161.
Pretty good. All right.
That's not a bad showing for the book.
It's a good showing. It shows how much it shows how much everybody likes the Tom Taylor All New Wolverine.
Yeah, it's a good run. It just has a few issues.
And like I think this show has not even done the most the runs of All New Wolverine people like the most.
We've not even done the parts that I like a ton. We haven't done the Four Sisters
arc. Up there. The Four Sisters, and then the one where she loses the trigger scent. What's that called?
Enemy of the State 2.
Enemy of the State 2.
I was telling Adam before you got on, All New Wolverine rotates real hard because there's Four Sisters, which is great. And then there's the Civil War 2 tie-in, which is fine. Then there's Enemy of the State 2 with rules.
So good.
Then there's this weird thing with Iron Man and the Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's fine. Then there's Orphans of X, which rules. Yeah. Then there's this. Like, it goes from really good stories to okay stories, like not bad, but they don't reach those same heights.
And it's peppered with in-between comedy issues.
Comedy, okay.
Right?
I think the comedy issues actually work better than
they're great.
Than the general actiony arcs.
Mm-hmm.
Orphans of X is an action arc. It is,
but it has a deep emotional core to it.
So I have read all of the series except for the tie-ins people told me not to read.
Which tie-ins?
Civil War.
You should read. They're not bad.
They're fine.
You don't even have to know anything about Civil War 2. You just have to know it's Minority Report. Are you aware of the concept of a Minority Report?
Yeah. I've read other Civil War 2 tie-ins. Like
it'd be great. It's worth reading if you haven't. Okay. It's they hang out with Old Man Logan.
Okay,
there you go.
But yeah, the fight. The other thing about like the Old Woman Laura story is good enough, and it shows up in a place where it wants to be compared to all the stuff that is amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's just got rough comps. That's all it's got.
Yeah. Here's a
pretty
question,
good.
though. How many good futures are there in X-Men? There's this thing you get at the very
positive
end. Positive
futures?
Caliber. Yeah, positive futures. There's the thing at the end of Days of Future Yet to Come where they fix
Days of
what is it? They fix Earth 811.
Yep. There's half of Battle of the Atom. Battle of the Atom is probably actually not a better future. It's like a status quo future.
Yeah.
Which on the grand scheme of futures is a plus.
Yeah.
There is Ages of Apocalypse has a good future.
That's true. They rebuild.
Okay. No, not Age. Age is Adam. Are you not aware about the sequel to the 12?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's bad. It's a bad story.
But it's got a good future.
It does have a good future. And then I think Claremont did a spin-off series Next Gen about, and this was an internet poll that got this pitch, and you will know that it was an internet poll after I tell you that the pitch of it was, what about the X-Men had kids?
I've read it.
Yeah.
I've read it.
Oh,
it's fun. I will usually defend late Claremont. This is
you like late Claremont a lot better than me.
I do. I will really go out on a limb for some late Claremont. That one is just fun, but it's more status quo-y. It's not like we solved stuff.
Yeah, there's not a lot of good futures. But do you know what's going to be a good future?
No, I don't know. Tell me.
I don't know. Whatever our listeners do next week, I guess.
Give me some optimism.
I don't know. This is look. We're kind of not living in the best future right now, so I don't know what to say. Next week we get to talk about the Jungle Adventure and some other stories, weird stories for the Apocalypse. So at least people have that to look forward to, and they have that to look forward to thanks to Patreon supporters like Stephanie. Stephanie doesn't have to give us money, but she chooses to, which is cool. If you want to be like Stephanie, you can go over to patreon.com/XavierFiles. We've got plenty of cool things at the $5 a month level. You get episodes that you can vote on and some other stuff. $2, you can just throw an episode on the list, see what happens. There's a bunch of stuff. If times are tight right now for you, and I get it, because I get it, Don't worry about it. The show's still going to be here. We
are booked.
We have obligations well into the future, so the world better not end before we can talk about what's the lowest. What if Volume
before the
2,
new
number
Mutants
46
movie actually comes out? You know.
Oh, I gotta re-add that to this stupid list.
Fifth release date.
I got to make you talk about some late Claremont next time.
You do got to make us talk about some late Claremont next time. It'll be fun. But hey, Stephanie, if people like your whole vibe, where can they find you? How can they find more about you?
I am on Twitter at accommodatingly, and that is with 2 C's and 2 M's. If you just look for Stephanie Burt, you can find me. I've written a couple of books with Secret X content. The most recent, it does. The most recent is a book of sort of fake translated imitated poetry called After Callimachus. And it has all kinds of, I make an ancient Greek poet I like into a sock puppet, and he talks about things like Scott and Emma hooking up. But
like a sock puppet for you, you're not writing this as if the Greek poet became a sock puppet, like an
no.
That's where my mind went for a second. I was like,
I thought it was a literal sock puppet.
I love this guy who died like more than 2,000 years ago, and I'm just really into him. And I fake translated or real translated a bunch of his poems, and one of them is a Kachana wedding hymn. So now I've said it on the air, and it's official. It is. You'll see it.
Also, TM, do not steal sock puppet Play-Doh. That's mine now.
Sock puppet Play-Doh is absolutely yours. Although we got to talk to, if we're pillaging the ancient world for sock puppets, we got to talk to Rob Secundus and see who he wants. There's also a book called Don't Read Poetry, a book about how to read poems, which is what it says on the tin, and has a new X-Men joke near the beginning. Actually, it's not a joke. It's not a joke, and you'll see.
We will see.
It's got some nice Emma Frost content. I'll say that. It's about poetry. It's actually about poetry. It is.
I believe you.
Don't read poetry.
Don't read poetry, but don't read poetry.
I mean, read poems. You can read don't read poetry if you want, but what it really says is read poems.
Okay, that works. Hey, Adam, where can people find you online? What's your vibe?
You can always follow me on Twitter at Arthur Stacy. I've been doing X-Men Trivia Night. If you guys are down with that, I'll probably have done at least a third one at some point. We've done 2 so far. Doing some commission work. That's about it. Zach, where can people find you?
People can find my stuff on Xavier Files. Comics are back, baby. We're talking about stuff as often as comics do come back out. We're trying. We are slowly rolling that boulder back up that hill so that we can give you the comics content that you crave every week. Yeah, it's going to be a while. Stephanie writes for us, does our Fantastic Four plus X-Men stories, which is great.
For that one to wrap up.
Has a release date. So
it has a release date.
It is on its way.
We finally get that ending. Beyond that, Twitter at Xavier Files. Everything else y'all know. Like we said, next week we're going to talk about some Apocalypse stuff. Stephanie, thank you so much for being on. It was a great time.
So I'm so grateful. This is so much fun. I'm just really happy to be here and hang out with you and talk X-Men.
We're happy to have you. But until next time, this has been Battle of the Atom, and we hope you survived the experience.
Get it!